Welcome back to the Patriots of Faith. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Tyler Carr. And we are going to discuss some of the sports happenings that are going on right now. Among those, there has been the NFL draft. There is the Floyd Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao fight that's going on. As we speak, the NHL playoffs are still underway.
And the NBA playoffs along with that. Baseball's strongly in the gear now as well.
So there is a lot going on. Let's start with the draft. So, as you probably already know, the number one pick by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was Jameis Winston.
That was probably the biggest shock. Oh, I'm kidding. About everybody knew Tampa Bay was going to try to hold on to the local state favorite, the homeboy there.
And the best part about that for him, he still lives by the bay, and so he still gets his crab legs.
Well, the great thing about that too, just like when the Patriots won the Super Bowl and all these teams for years, they always after they win the Super Bowl, they always say, "Oh, that question comes up. We can do now. I'm going to Disney World." Of course, it's just a short day trip to Disney World for them now, so it won't be too challenging if the Bucs ever get a chance to get back in the Super Bowl again. They won it over a decade ago. We'll see if they ever make it back there again.
The real question is, though, can Jameis take them there?
That is a big question.
And do you have any thoughts on that, Jordan?
I don't know. I mean, I don't. Usually, a lot of these first-round draft picks end up being a wash. You look at even folks like Chad Johnson and just all these folks over the last decade, 2 decades. These first-round draft picks, they come with so much fanfare and all this hoopla, and they've done very well on the college level. But professionals is another matter entirely, and that's where you start seeing these second, third-round draft picks, the fourth-round draft picks, making a statement. And so, sometimes you get Peyton Manning the first round. You get some of these folks that do very well, but it's not guaranteed just because they're first round doesn't mean that they're going to be in the headlines the next 5, 10, 15 years and doing very well in the Super Bowl and everything else. So it's going to be interesting. The first 2 or 3 draft picks. I've actually heard from someone here in town that's a Titans fan. Just the other day, I asked him. I said, "What do you think of Mariota going to the Titans?" And he's like, "I'm not real impressed," because I said to him, I said, "We haven't seen enough from Mettenberger yet to see how he's going to do it." That's what he said exactly. So he's still sold on Mettenberger. Thinks that Mettenberger is going to have a future.
I think,
but he wasn't too impressed about Mariota being picked though. First off,
what the Titans are looking for from Mariota, from what I've heard, is that we're looking for a quarterback who's not going to be injured. Mettenberger has already been injured.
Right.
Mariota is not known for his injuries.
Right.
In fact, I can't think of a time where he has been injured. He only had, I think, very few interceptions in his entire career. I think it was something very low, like 10 in his entire career. And even though that was in college, still that's much better than most quarterbacks. Compared to Jameis, Jameis had 18 just this past season.
Right.
And so he's still got some work to do in that. Jameis, as far as his build goes, he's bigger. He has more mobility. And so that's his strength.
Of course, Tampa Bay. I mean, the main reason you draft any player typically is for if you believe he's got skills and everything. But there's also a big factor that goes in. Will this guy help us market? He did very well at Florida State. It's the home state type thing going on there, and you had a lot of that going on in Texas sometimes too. You'd have Texas draft picks at home. You have that in Tennessee, other states as well, where the local person. I wish they would have done that with the Titans when Cutler was available instead of going with Vince Young. If they would have went with Cutler, I think they would have had a lot more success, at least for a few years. I mean, Cutler's kind of gone past his prime quite a bit now, but for those last few years prior to that, when Cutler was still very young, I mean, we seem to have go into the playoffs with, I think, both Chicago and Denver, if I'm not mistaken. So Tennessee would have did well 7, 8 years ago, whenever that draft was, for to do that instead of Young, have Cutler in there and keep it home. But that's a big factor, though, too. Tampa Bay's draft of Winston is having that ability to market to the Florida State audience and saying, "Hey, here's a homeboy. We're going to try to keep him here with us in the state.
Weaknesses of of Winston. Sometimes he's not very accurate with his throwing. He tends to throw interceptions and things like that. So that could be something that he could work on. Also, off-field issues has been he's been charged with rape in the past. He's been caught stealing crab legs.
He likes those crab legs.
Yeah. But there's been some things going on with him off field, so that could be another concern with him. Maybe he's had a change of heart. Let's hope so. But that could be a concern. With Mariota, however, that is not a concern. He's not had any off field issues. Seems to have very good character, very positive attitude about it, and I think he's what the Titans were looking for. Ken Wisenhunt made it very clear that they wanted Mariota.
Right.
They want someone who's going to be able to be that franchise quarterback. And of course, they're in the process of rebuilding their offense, and they're saying that they're going to probably start Mariota the very first game, and that may or may not be a good decision. I don't know. I think this is one of the things where we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. But I think Mariota definitely has the capability to become a great quarterback in the NFL. They're looking for someone who's not going to be injured very much, who can run. That's another thing with Mettenberger. He can't run. So that's one thing that they're looking for in Mariota.
But it's a little bit more agile.
Of course, his throwing accuracy may not be as good as maybe Mettenberger.
Right.
But he's more mobile, and he does do very well passing most of the time. He does have some issues with it, maybe staring down receivers at times, but he is a very good quarterback and took a team to the national championship. So we will see how that goes. Amari Cooper was drafted by the Raiders, and of course we all expected him to go very high.
Right.
As well, there's been a drought of running backs getting picked in the top 10. Well, that drought was broken this year. Todd Gurley was picked by the St. Louis Rams at pick number 10.
Big SEC runner there with Georgia.
And of course, the Rams have their Trey Mason as well, who they picked up last year from Auburn. And so that could be a good duo that they have there to really supplement their running game. What they really need, though, is a quarterback.
Yes.
Because they cannot score. That was the main issue.
That's what the Titans fan was telling me, too, about the Titans draft pick. They wish it wasn't Mariota. He wishes it was a wide receiver, I think is what he said he would prefer it to be.
There was an article on Yahoo News or on Yahoo Sports that the Titans actually spent 7 out of their 9 picks trying to rebuild their offense. That's what we're looking for. That was our problem last year. We had so many issues on offense. We could not score. We couldn't do anything on offense. And our defense would do well up until they got tired because they were on the field all the time. So that's really what we needed is offense. Offensive linemen. Our offensive line was completely crippled last year, of course, because of the injuries. But we really did need some help on offense. And so they're thinking maybe I think the Titans are thinking maybe they can get that help with these draft picks. So we will move on from the draft unless Jordan has anything else to say.
No, I think we covered the draft pretty good.
And I think he's looking at some stuff about the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, we've had a lot of stuff going on there. It looks like we've got our conference semis set up. Today, though, just a short while ago, big score here. The San Antonio Spurs will not be advancing. Of course, they are the defending champions there in San Antonio, but the Los Angeles Clippers knocked them out. And it wasn't by a rout either. It was just 111 to 109, a real tight score. But the Clippers in Game 7 are advancing, and that was the last piece of the puzzle to knowing who the semifinals are. One that a lot of folks are watching is Atlanta. The Atlanta Hawks are in the conference semis after beating the New Jersey Nets. Chicago Bulls will be there. The Cavs are back in again too. And looks like the Nets, if I can see it right, looks like the Nets might be going in. And just trying to go through this, the one that I know our good friend Luke, he's a big Mavericks fan, I think, when it comes to the NBA. But they fell to the Houston Rockets. And it looks like the Memphis Grizzlies are also in the semifinals as well. So they're all being, I think the Golden State Warriors were the ones that I missed. But Golden State will be playing Memphis in that semifinal matchup. And then Chicago and Cleveland. I'm sorry, it's not the Nets, but it's the Washington Wizards are the ones that will be playing Atlanta. They're the ones that advanced, and Atlanta will face them. So that would actually be a pretty interesting Mid-South matchup if Atlanta and Memphis make it on to the finals. They're 2 steps away from that now. And as we said, the Clippers had taken down San Antonio today in Game 7. New Orleans is another team that I had forgotten to mention. New Orleans and Golden State are facing each other coming up here in the semis as well.
Of course, we are the Manny Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather fight is going on as we speak. That fight, I've read, is actually a big deal for some Christians because Manny Pacquiao, his shirt that he was wearing on the way into the fight, said something on the back about giving the glory to God. All honor and glory belongs to God. So it is refreshing to see a big sports figure like that to come out with his faith in God.
But similar to Tebow there too. That's why a lot of folks follow him, and other folks similar to that. Mike Fisher from the Nashville Predators is that way as well, where they're not ashamed to talk about their faith. This day and age, we have so many folks who are just negative. I mean, you look at what's his name, Gonzalez up there at New England, the tight end. Is it Tony Gonzalez? I think his name was. That was found to have murdered a couple people. I believe it was
Aaron Hernandez.
Hernandez, that's right. Tony Gonzalez is a different tight end from down in Atlanta, but Aaron Hernandez. And you look at folks like him, and I mean O.J. Simpson from the last 20 years or so, and just different folks of that caliber. And that just it's not a person that you want your kids to look up to. But then you get like a Tebow out there, a refreshing face, who is very positive and a good Christian role model. And you got the gentleman here with the fight today, and you look at other folks similar to that Fisher and others. It's just a refreshing role model to have.
It is. Maybe you wanted to mention something briefly about the NHL playoffs. We have a little less than 2 minutes left.
All right, let me pull that up real quick because I've actually been out of the loop on that myself since the Preds went down. But we will pull up the second round schedule. Of course, we know, as we said, the Predators have already fallen short. They put up a good fight.
They did.
A lot of folks here in Tennessee are frustrated about that, but they don't have a season really. The Predators really don't have anything to be ashamed of because they played hard, and they had 2 blowout victories, but they fell in a couple of real close games against the Chicago Blackhawks. So the Chicago Blackhawks will be in there. I have a hard time pulling it. Now here you go. I had a hard time pulling it up. The connection that we have here has had some troubles. It looks like, well, Tampa Bay. We know Tampa Bay beat Montreal. They have moved on to the next round. And trying to think who else. This is actually an outdated list. For some reason, they did. I'm sorry. No, this is right. We know Tampa Bay moved on. They are playing Montreal and leading that series 1-0, and then the New York Rangers are tied 1-1 in their series with the Washington Capitals. That's an Eastern Conference. Chicago actually leads the series against Minnesota 1-0, and Anaheim leads their series against Calgary 1-0. So the second round has begun, and but it's still too early to tell because if any team's played 2 games, the series is tied 1-1.
Well, this will be it for our sports segment. We are the Patriots of Faith.
Thank you for watching.